Ring chasing is a pretty common occurrence in the NFL. While loyalty's important, sometimes as things start to wrap up and age starts to creep up on you, a lot of players will opt to chase that championship before it's too late. But sometimes, even when a player puts their best foot forward, fate conspires against them. You can never fault NFL players for ring chasing near the tail end of their careers. Jumping to a championship contender in their later years sure worked out for the likes of DeMarcus Ware, Darrelle Revis, Ndamokung, and Weddle, among others. But some of the top NFL players, past and present, simply didn't time it right when it came to pursuing a Super Bowl ring. They were wise to leave their previous teams, but these 10 players simply chose the wrong team to ring chase with. Randy Moss. There's a case to be made that Moss is the greatest non-QB that never won a Super Bowl, but it wasn't without trying. The Minnesota Vikings reached the NFC Championship game twice in Moss's first stint, in 1998 and 2000. They were on the losing end both times, and the star-studded Vikings just never found a way to get over the hump. In 2005, the Vikings traded Moss to the Oakland Raiders, who were just 2 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance. Following a lackluster 2-year stint in Oakland, Moss was traded to the New England Patriots, where he enjoyed a career revival for the ages. Moss caught 23 touchdown passes, a single-season record. The Patriots went 16-0 in the regular season and advanced to Super Bowl 42, which ended in a heartbreaking loss to the New York Giants in the final minute. In the midst of the 2010 season, a disgruntled Moss was traded back to Minnesota, a team 1 year removed from the NFC title game, and with Brett Favre as their quarterback. But Moss got nothing going there. He retired after the 2010 season, but came back for one more year, rejoining the reigning NFC runner-up San Francisco 49ers. However, Moss's career ended in utter heartbreak, as San Fran lost 34-31 to the Baltimore Ravens in Super Bowl 47. Moss knew when it was time to change teams to pursue a championship, but he came up empty-handed every single time. Randall Cunningham. The game's first true great dual-threat quarterback spent his first 11 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles. But they simply couldn't get over the playoff hump, winning just one postseason game during Cunningham's tenure in Philly. Cunningham retired after the 1995 season, but decided to come back in 1997, landing a contract with the Minnesota Vikings. In 1998, Cunningham had the greatest season of his entire career, leading a prolific mini offense that scored a then-record 556 points in the regular season. But the Vikings, of course, lost a gut-wrenching game to the Atlanta Falcons in overtime of the NFC Championship. Cunningham lost the starting job the ensuing season, forcing him to chase a ring elsewhere. In 2000, Cunningham signed with the Dallas Cowboys, who were clawing for a fourth Lombardi trophy to add to their dynasty. Cunningham made just 3 starts in a miserable 5-11 season for the Cowboys. Finally, Cunningham gave it one last go when he was signed with the defending Super Bowl champion Baltimore Ravens in 2001. Cunningham won his 2 starts there, but Elvis Grbac was used as the primary starter. The Ravens lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers in the divisional round, ending Cunningham's final bid at a championship. The 4-time Pro Bowler retired after the 2001 season. Julius Peppers. Among all NFL greats who never won a ring, few players went through as many devastating postseason losses as Peppers. The 9-time Pro Bowler, he of 159.5 career sacks, spent his first 8 seasons with the Carolina Panthers. That was highlighted by a trip to Super Bowl 38, where they fell to the Patriots on a late Adam Vinatieri field goal. 2 years later, Carolina got back into the NFC Championship game, but fell to the Seattle Seahawks. In 2010, the superstar defensive end signed with the Chicago Bears. He guided them to the NFC Championship game in his first season there, but they lost to the eventual Super Bowl champion Green Bay Packers. In 2014, Peppers left Chicago for the perennial contending Packers, but the poor guy was on the wrong end of NFC Championship losses again in 2014 and 2016. Peppers would return to Carolina for his final 2 seasons, and though they made the playoffs in 2017, the Panthers were dispatched by the New Orleans Saints on Wild Card Weekend. 18 career playoff games, 6.5 sacks, 5 NFC title game appearances. 0 rings to show for it. Close, but no cigar. Logan Mankins. It was a combination of bad luck and bad timing that led to Mankins retiring without a ring. When you think of the all-time great Patriots, you cannot forget Mankins. He was a 7-time Pro Bowl guard, a 5-time second-team All-Pro, and a member of the NFL 2010's All-Decade team. The Mankins, unfortunately, played 9 non-championship seasons with the Patriots. They drafted him 32nd overall in 2005, having just won a 3rd championship to cement their dynasty status. Mankins stayed loyal to the Patriots rather than chase greener pastures. He was on the 2007 squad that fell 1 game short of perfection. 4 years later, Mankins' impressive efforts helped New England to another Super Bowl. But they fell a second time to the Giants. The Patriots ended up trading Mankins to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers shortly before the start of the 2014 season. And, sure enough, New England went on to win the Super Bowl a few short months later. Go figure. Mankins retired after the 2015 season. Like we said, just bad timing. He played every season with New England in between their 3rd and 4th Super Bowl championship titles. What are the odds? J.J. Watt. Following a 10-year tenure with the Houston Texans, Watt and the franchise agreed to part ways in 2021. The Texans were headed towards a rebuild, and the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year wanted to chase a ring. Watt was one of those respected veterans that could have chosen his next home. The Buffalo Bills and Tennessee Titans were among the favorites to land him. Green Bay was up there too. Really, Watt could have called any team of his liking and asked to sign there. But he ultimately chose the up-and-coming Arizona Cardinals, who were loaded with stars like Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Budda Baker, and Chandler Jones. Suffice it to say, it didn't work out for Watt and the Redbirds in year 1. He was limited to 7 games because of injury, recording just 1 sack in those contests. Arizona slumped in the second half following a perfect 7-0 start, and they were blown out by the rival Rams on wildcard weekend. Watt's career isn't over, but you gotta wonder why he chose a playoff contender over a bona fide title contender. He had his choice, but simply settled on the wrong team. Dez Bryant. Bryant spent 8 years with the Dallas Cowboys before he was released in 2018 in a cap-clearing move. The 3-time Pro Bowler took his time finding the right fit before finally signing with the NFC's top-seeded New Orleans Saints midway through the 2018 campaign. Unfortunately, Bryant tore his Achilles in practice before ever playing a game for the Saints. He went unsigned in 2019 and finally came back in 2020, signing a deal with the Baltimore Ravens. Sadly, Bryant wasn't much of a factor in the Ravens' offense. They ultimately were eliminated by Buffalo in the AFC divisional round, ending Bryant's final bid at a championship ring. He had the right idea by joining the contending Saints and Ravens mid-season. It just didn't really lead to a championship. Brandin Cooks. The speedy wideout spent his first 3 seasons in New Orleans, forming an explosive pass-catching duo with Drew Brees. In 2017, the Saints traded him to the defending champion Patriots in a blockbuster deal that helped them net future star offensive tackle Ryan Ramczyk. Cooks had a fantastic season with Tom Brady, producing as a top-notch weapon with Julian Edelman out for the entire year. Cooks helped the Patriots get back to the Super Bowl, but he was unfortunately knocked out of the game with a concussion on a big hit from Malcolm Jenkins. Philadelphia went on to beat New England 41-33. In the offseason, Cooks was traded to the Los Angeles Rams. They went on to reach Super Bowl 53, losing to Cook's former squad, the Patriots. Following a down 2019 season in La La Land, Cook was sent off to the Houston Texans, who were coming off a second straight AFC South Division title. Cooks produced 1,000-yard seasons for Houston in 2020 and 2021. But the Texans were among the NFL's worst teams both years. Time is on Cook's side to eventually land with another title contender. It's just too bad he left New Orleans the same year they began a 4-year streak of NFC South titles, and he lost in back-to-back Super Bowls with different teams. And he joined Houston just as their competitive window was closing shut. Le'Veon Bell. We suppose it isn't fully over for Bell, but it's certainly hard to like his chances at this point. The former do-it-all workhorse spent his first 5 seasons with the Pittsburgh Steelers, forming the dynamic Killer Bees trio with Ben Roethlisberger and Antonio Brown. In their first 5 seasons together, the Killer Bees led Pittsburgh to 4 playoff appearances, going as far as the 2016 AFC Championship game. Bell ended up sitting out of the entire 2018 season after a contract dispute, burning bridges with the Steelers and ruining a prime opportunity to compete for multiple titles. Bell later signed with the New York Jets in 2019, but he barely lasted more than a season before getting released. The 3-time Pro Bowler then signed with the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, hoping to cruise his way to a title despite knowing he wasn't going to see much playing time. The Chiefs reached the big dance again, but they were no match for Tom Brady's Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Baltimore Ravens, another hopeful Super Bowl contender, added Bell to their roster at the start of the 2021 season. The Ravens subsequently released Bell, who then signed with none other than the Bucs. But Tampa waived Bell shortly before their NFC divisional round defeat to the Los Angeles Rams, which ended Bell's latest bid for a ring. 4 prime Super Bowl contenders, 0 rings to show for it. Maybe Bell should have just stayed with Pittsburgh while their window to win was still open. Jason Taylor, the Hall of Fame defensive end / outside linebacker, chased, but nada. 0 rings to close out a fantastic career that saw Taylor rack up 139.5 sacks, a 2006 Defensive Player of the Year award, and 6 Pro Bowl nods. After 11 seasons with the Miami Dolphins, Taylor was traded to Washington. They were coming off a 9-win season and a wildcard appearance, whereas the 07 Dolphins were coming off a 1-win season. Washington released Taylor following the 2008 season that saw them miss out on the playoffs. He came back to Miami in 2009 after the team had just stunned the football world with an 11-win season and an AFC East title. But the Dolphins fell back to earth that year, and Taylor once again went back to ring chasing. In 2010, he signed with the New York Jets, who had fallen to the Indianapolis Colts in the 09 AFC Championship game. Taylor and the Jets would advance to the AFC title game, but they would ultimately lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He decided to come back to Miami for one final season in 2011, fittingly leading his team to a Week 17 victory over the Jets, which spoiled New York's postseason hopes. Wes Welker. Welker was used primarily as a special teams weapon for the Miami Dolphins, but his career reached new heights following a trade to New England in 2007. The crafty Welker emerged as the game's top slot receiver in the Patriots' record-setting 2007 season. Welker led the league in receptions and nearly helped New England to a perfect 19-0 season. Welker would end up playing 6 seasons in New England, reaching 2 Super Bowls, though both resulting in losses to the Giants, and 3 AFC Championship games. But after a falling out with head coach Bill Belichick, Welker left the Pats and signed with the rival Denver Broncos. Welker spent 2 seasons in Denver, where he helped Peyton Manning enjoy a record-setting season in 2013. But the Broncos were crushed by the Seattle Seahawks in Super Bowl 48, and the following year, the Broncos were upset by the Indianapolis Colts in the divisional round. Welker played 8 games for the St. Louis Rams in 2015, where he saw very little action. He retired after that season and took up a career as an NFL assistant coach. If those 3 Super Bowl losses weren't painful enough, he was the wide receivers coach for the 2019 San Francisco 49ers squad that ended up falling to the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. So that's 4 Super Bowl losses and 0 rings. You gotta feel sorry for the guy. But what other players tried chasing a Super Bowl ring but failed miserably? Join us in the comments section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea, because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.